On the broadcast tonight, reform plan as Korean lawmakers zero in on ways to overhaul the scandal-ridden National Intelligence Agency. The NIS presents its own reform plan to the legislature. We have the details. Over $1 billion in the largest defense sale this country has ever seen. Korea inks a deal with Iraq to sell 24 units of its new light fighter jets. And setback on home turf. Samsung takes a surprise hit domestically after Seoul court rules against the Korean tech giant in a patent lawsuit against Apple. It's the latest battle in a global patent war between the rivals. Early edition begins now. It is 4 a.m. in Washington, noon in Baghdad, and 6 on a Thursday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Gon-young.
And I'm Daniel Chen. Thank you for joining us. Reform plans for the nation's much talked about spy agency. That's our starting point today.
The Special Parliamentary Committee to Reform the State Spy Agency resumed work this Thursday, and it is currently meeting to discuss a reform plan drafted by the spy agency itself.
For more on the meeting today and what's next for the committee, let's now go over to our political correspondent Kim Yeon-ji at the National Assembly. Yeon-ji, hello there. Do fill us in on the latest.
Hi, Daniel. The Special Parliamentary Committee on Reforming the National Intelligence Service convened a closed-door meeting this morning, and its afternoon session is still ongoing, although we expect that the meeting will come to a close in just a few hours. At the meeting, National Intelligence Service Chief Nam Jae-jun presented a reform plan that his agency put together. This reform plan, submitted by the NIS, would scrap a system that gives NIS agents unbridled access to the National Assembly, political parties, and media outlets. The plan also sets out guidelines for the establishment of a center that will handle employee complaints of unjust or inappropriate orders from superiors that could lead them to intervene in politics. Whether the complaints are legitimate would be determined by a special panel that would be led by 2 prosecutors dispatched from outside the agency. Under the plan, all NIS agents and new recruits would be required to take an oath to not intervene in politics during their tenure, and retired NIS agents would be barred from engaging in party politics within the first 3 years of their retirement. Another important element of the plan calls for the establishment of codes that clearly define the scope of its psychological warfare campaign against North Korea. NIS agents will also be barred from mentioning specific political parties or politicians when involved in psychological warfare operations. The spy agency has been at the center of a national controversy all year long over suspicions of launching an online smear campaign in the run-up to last year's presidential election. While the ruling party gave out a rather positive review of the spy agency's reform proposal, saying that it really tried to add elements that could stop the NIS agents from intervening in politics. But the main opposition Democratic Party harshly criticized the plan, saying that it lacks discussions of core issues, such as toughening the parliament's control over the agency's budget.
All right, Yeon-ji, so in terms of the timeline, what's next for the special committee assigned with reforming the NIS?
Well, Kan-young, the special committee has about 3 weeks left to complete all of the legislative work necessary to reform the spy agency in the way that it sees fit. Next week, the committee will hold public hearings to gather experts' views on how to reform the spy agency, and then it will start deliberations on how the National Intelligence Service law and a law on public officials should be revised in order to carry out the necessary reforms.
Okay, thank you for that, Yeon-ji. That was our parliamentary correspondent Kim Yeon-ji live from the National Assembly.
Now, in the largest single sale Korea's defense industry has ever seen, an agreement was inked with Iraq on Thursday that will have Korea sending 24 supersonic light fighter jets to the Western Asian country.
The deal, worth more than $2 billion, could very well open up new possibilities for the nation's defense exports. Our defense ministry correspondent Han Da-eun has the story.
Korea Aerospace Industries signed a landmark export contract with Iraq on Thursday. The aerospace agency will provide 24 units of the T-50IQ multi-role light attack aircraft to the Middle Eastern country by 2017 for $1.1 billion. The package deal includes pilot training and other operational support, making the total value of the deal worth more than $2 billion. It's the most expensive single defense export deal Korea has ever seen. The T-50IQ, built by Korea Aerospace Industries, is a supersonic light fighter that can also be used as an advanced trainer jet. With an engine output of more than 8,000 kilograms and a top speed of Mach 1.5, it can load more than 4,500 kilograms of armed gear. The biggest strengths of the T-50IQ, officials say, is that it's one of the world's most advanced trainers, suitable for fifth-generation fighter jets. Plus, it can carry the latest weapons, such as AIM-9 air-to-air missiles, AGM-65 air-to-surface missiles, and JDAM guided bombs. Kai officials say there's rising global demand for light fighters to replace aging fighter jets, and that the T-50 is emerging as an attractive option because of its competitive price range. Officials aim to sell more than 1,000 units, with a target to increase its global market share to up to 30%. One unit of the T-50 has the same economic effect as selling 1,000 units of mid-sized automobiles. The contract with Iraq has shed a new light on Korea's defense industry, demonstrating a potential to become a new growth engine for the nation. 한다은 아리랑 뉴스.
The Korean government is calling on Japan to take down multiple videos that claim jurisdiction over the Korea-controlled Dokdo Islets. Seoul's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Cho Tae-yong said Thursday that the Korean government will take strong action against any move that threatens to challenge its territorial sovereignty and urged Japan to remove the 87-second-long clips immediately from its government website and YouTube. The Japanese government on Wednesday posted videos in 9 different languages, including Korean, using the Japanese name for the islets Takeshima. Last month, Japan's foreign ministry posted a similar video in English on its YouTube channel, which also drew condemnation from Korea. A defeat for Samsung on its home turf. A Seoul court on Thursday rejected the tech giant's claim that iPhone and iPad models violated 3 of its patents. The Seoul Central District Court ruled that Apple did not infringe on Samsung patents related to text messaging, saying the technology in 2 of them could easily be independently developed by others and that the third was not used in the iPad. Samsung said immediately after the decision that they would appeal. The ruling is the latest legal blow to Samsung, which owes Apple $930 million from 2 jury verdicts in the United States. But in a separate patent case on Wednesday in Germany, Samsung scored a victory. A Mannheim court ruled that Apple had infringed on one of Samsung's multi-language function patents.
President Park Geun-hye has emphasized the importance of her push for a creative economy, saying Korea needs to shift its economic paradigm to meet the needs of the ever-changing world. She also laid out various government measures to support startups and venture companies. Our presidential office correspondent, Jin-ju, has the details.
President Park has pledged to create a business environment in which creativity, innovation, and new ideas can lead to economic revitalization. Speaking at a fair on creative economy Thursday, President Park stressed that in order to break away from low growth and high unemployment, the country should shift its economic paradigm to a more creative and innovative one.
창조 경제 시대에는 거대 자본과 글로벌 네트워크가 없어도 누구든 창의적 아이디어를 통해 새로운 가치와 시장을 만들어낼 수 있습니다.
As part of its efforts to realize a creative economy, the Park administration has set up a financial aid system for startup and venture firms and is creating an overseas network to help these companies expand into the global market. A state-run creative economy town website was established in September as a platform to help commercialize creative ideas that individuals have but weren't able to make a business out of due to a lack of money or know-how. More than 3,800 ideas have been proposed on this website since its creation. President Park has vowed to now create a so-called offline creative economy town nationwide that will contain the different resources and strategies of each region and provide local residents with tailored government support. The president also put an emphasis on finance as the key to connect such efforts into real business.
금융업의 경쟁력을 높이고 금융 지원을 강화해서 창조 경제의 시드 머니가 넘치도록 만들 것입니다.
Tearing down red tape that gets in the way of creativity, innovation, and convergence was another of the president's pledges. The government plans to launch a private and public joint bureau on the creative economy this month that will be composed of related ministries, SMEs, venture firms, and conglomerates to more effectively devise measures that are essential in the field. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
Korea's central bank has left its key interest rate unchanged at 2.5% for the 7th straight month in December. The Bank of Korea's decision, which was widely expected, was made at a monthly monetary policy meeting on Thursday. The central bank expects the economy at home and abroad to stay on a path of moderate recovery, but cited the U.S. Federal Reserve's planned tapering of its bond buying stimulus program as a lingering uncertainty for the global economy. The Korean economy grew 1.1% in the third quarter of this year from the previous quarter, when it gained at the same pace. The economy's quarter-on-quarter growth remained below 1% for more than 2 years until early this year. U.S. stocks slid the most in 1 month on Wednesday after a budget deal in Washington increased the chances that the Federal Reserve may soon start tapering its stimulus measures. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.81%, while the S&P 500 dropped 1.13%. The bipartisan budget agreement was reached late Tuesday after 3 years of partisan battles over the issue. The Fed is expected to announce whether it will scale back its quantitative easing next Wednesday local time following 2 days of meetings.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korean import prices rose by... Now, at a hearing on the deadly crash of an Asiana Airlines passenger jet at San Francisco International Airport in July, U.S. investigators said the pilot was worried about his ability to land. They also said the plane was coming in too slow and too low as it made its final approach. 3 people were killed and more than 180 were injured in that crash. Kim Young-gil has the details.
The trainee pilot of the Asiana Airlines Boeing 777 that crashed in San Francisco told investigators that he was very concerned about landing without assistance from the runway's navigation aid system. According to information released by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, the pilot said he was stressed about the approach and thought the autothrottle was working when the plane was flying too slow and too low.
About 11 seconds prior to impact, an audible alert consistent with the low airspeed caution was recorded. But the action was too late, and the main gear and underside of the aft fuselage struck the seawall.
The airport's navigation aid was out of service due to construction, although a visual lighting system was operational at the time of the crash. Captain Lee Gang-guk, who had a lot of experience in Boeing 747s but was transitioning to a Boeing 777, might have inadvertently disabled a speed control system, according to NTSB documents. The hearing focused on whether the pilot's over-reliance on the autopilot system had degraded his human flying skills and increased the risk of accidents. The automated cockpit system is also seen as key to the probe. Some crew members told investigators the autothrust that controls the aircraft power was always engaged, but the safety board said it was not engaged when it approached the runway. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
The nation's rail services are again feeling the strain on this fourth day of a walkout by members of the Railway Workers Union. More than a third of unionized rail workers are now taking part, and the number is growing by the day. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports.
An additional 860 workers that are on strike were removed from their posts on Thursday evening, bringing the total number of those suspended without pay to more than 7,600. Freight train services are the worst affected by this week's industrial action, running at just 32% of normal levels. Express train services have also been hit, but the nation's high-speed KTX bullet trains continue to operate as normal. The government is urging the thousands of rail workers who have down tools to return to work as soon as possible.
This strike goes against government policy. It's not justified and doesn't have a practical interest. People need to get back to work before it's too late.
Around one-third of Korail's workers remain on strike, but little over 600 have returned to their roles since the strike started Monday. Nearly 8,000 workers have gone on strike, and the vast majority, over 6,700, have been removed from their posts, and around 90 have been shown the door permanently. The union launched the strike on Monday in protest of Korail's plan to establish an affiliate for a new bullet train line. It thinks the plan would eventually lead to the privatization of Korail, mass job losses, and fare hikes. In a separate incident, a freight train partially derailed in the southeast of the country early Thursday morning. No one was hurt, and the Transport Ministry has concluded the incident was caused by damage to a wheel. Kim Hyun-bin, AIRED News.
Well, the Korean government is making various efforts to boost the job market, and it has unveiled a plan to increase the number of available jobs in the country and raise the employment rate from its current 64% to 70% by 2017.
And the plan also aims to boost the productivity of the workforce. Our Kim Ji-yeon is here with us in the studio to tell us more. Rather, she is standing by at the newsroom. Good evening, Ji-yeon. So what's the primary feature of this plan?
Daniel Konyong, this plan set out by the Labor Ministry revolves around flexible or time-selected jobs. These are different from conventional part-time jobs in terms of job security and benefits, but perhaps even more importantly in terms about the amount of pay. Part-timers in Korea are temporary workers who only get an hourly wage. On the other hand, time-selected employees are hired on permanent contracts, and they're entitled to the same wages and benefits as their salaried counterparts, but they work for only 4 to 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is just about half the time of most full-time employees who put in 9 hours a day. And the rate of pay that time-selected employees receive is higher than that of ordinary part-time workers, since it's proportional to what they would make if they were on a full-time contract.
So, Ji-yeon, it makes us wonder, how much pay are we talking about?
Right. So if the hourly wage of a full-time employee is $10, for example, then the part-time employee under this system would also be entitled to $10 for every hour on the clock. But the aggregate wage the employee would receive under this system is less than what full-time workers would get because they're working fewer total hours. Part-timer employees, on the other hand, are usually paid something close to the minimum wage. The Ministry of Employment and Labor says the plan will bring flexibility to the labor force and the market, and says the government will increase the number of these time-selected positions to 930,000 by 2017.
And we are also curious to find out who will be the biggest potential beneficiaries of the government's new plan.
Right. Well, mostly women and retirees seeking to re-enter the workforce will be the biggest beneficiaries. Take a look. Nam So-yeon is back at work after having left her job 5 years ago to focus on raising her 2 children. She is a counselor at a call center of a local business consulting company. She says that she only has to work for 4 hours a day, which makes it easier for her to balance work and family life than before.
I'm making the most of the hours when my children are in daycare.
Nam is one of the 2 million Korean women who have given up full-time jobs to take care of family. According to a recent survey conducted by the Ministry of Employment and Labor, 8 out of 10 unemployed women said they like the idea of the time-selective hiring system. More than half of the respondents said the reason the system works for them is because it gives them time to be at home and raise their children. The country's large conglomerates and other companies have started to adopt the plan. Samsung said it would add around 6,000 time-selected jobs this year alone.
We are on board with the government's plan to increase the number of time-selective working hour jobs, which emphasize the balance between work and family.
But not everyone is on board with the government's move. The Korean Confederation of Trade Unions, one of the country's 2 umbrella labor unions, said the jobs created under the plan are low in quality, and the government needs to come up with a better plan.
All right, we apologize for that technical glitch, but Jian, what does the KCTU mean when they say that they plan to create low-quality jobs?
Well, the civic group argues that the government's plan will lower the number of full-time jobs by substituting them with 2 to 3 selected working hour jobs. So in the case of prospective workers in their 20s who just graduated from college but don't have any children, this may not be the best solution for them.
I understand that this plan may be helpful for mothers trying to get back to work, but for me, I'm afraid it would only lead to a deterioration in the quality of jobs.
I doubt this plan would help me find a good job. The government needs to come up with something that is more sustainable.
And what about the experts? Where do they stand on this new system, Jian?
Well, I talked to Park Chun-sik from the Korea Research Institute for Vocational Education and Training, and he viewed this as a positive step toward compensating existing part-time workers that are paid less than their full-time counterparts. But he says the government needs to do more to solidify the plan for a longer period of time.
In order to sustain the system, there may be a need for punitive measures to make sure that the companies hiring for these selective working hour positions are actually paying employees the amounts they promised.
All right, thank you so much for that report, Jian.
That was our Kim Ji-yeon reporting live on the government's plan to boost the employment rate in this country by offering flexible or what's been dubbed as time-selective jobs. And time now to get a check on the weather conditions. And for that, we go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Now, Bo-kyung, Seoul has turned into a winter wonderland today. And I understand that some regions, however, are under heavy snowfall watches even at this hour.
That's right, Kon-young. The Chungcheongdo, Gangwon-do, and Gyeonggi-do provinces are under a heavy snowfall watch. Now, a heavy snowfall watch was issued here in Seoul earlier today, but that was canceled at 5 p.m.
So in the near future, how much snow are we looking at across the nation, Bo-kyung?
Well, with more than 2 centimeters of snow falling per hour at Gangwon-do province, it looks like the mountains of Gangwon will get to see the most snow with more than 10 centimeters on their way. Well, as of so far, we got to see about 4.4 centimeters of snow here in Seoul. Currently, numbers say that it's about -1 degrees, but keep in mind that it feels like it's -7 due to the cold, strong winds. Now, other than that, tomorrow, the snow will go away, but keep in mind that numbers will remain around 0 degrees. So it is recommended that you use public transportation as it is highly likely that the snow will lead to icy road conditions. Taking a closer look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul starts off the day at -7 degrees with a high of -2. Meanwhile, Gwangju and Busan hit 3 and 5 degrees respectively. Moving on to other regions, Daejeon makes it to -1 degrees, all the while Mount Kumgang remains the coldest at -12. Well, that's all I have for you this hour, and back to you guys.
Well, thank you for that, Bo-kyung. Now, for those of you residing in the colder regions like Korea, don't be too fashion conscious. Instead, dress warm and be careful there on the roads. That's all from us for this hour. Thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Chan.
And I'm Moon Gan-young. Thank you as always for being here with us. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and stay safe on the roads as you make your way back home, and we'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Good night.